So for today's demo, uh, as I told you before I start painting, I try to do a kind of value sketch from the reference photo, and that's why that it helps me to find the kind of the composition plus the dark and light areas. And I don't usually follow the same shapes and forms and the picture, or when I go to the location. Actually, I try to find to do very fast sketches, and that's the study of composition value study. So um, there is I'm putting a kind of very small house here in the middle of those trees, and here's the maybe light green area, grass area, and there's a pathway in this part, and again grass here. Maybe I have to put some shadows or dark green to define this path, and dark spot here. So defining the trees, 4 trees. Maybe there is one single tree and bunch of trees here. And my focal point will be somewhere in this area. And here's the sky. Here's the dark green. And this one will be a light green. And maybe this area would be a kind of lightest area in my painting. So let's go for the to paint with watercolor. Okay, so as you see here in my palette, I have the blue colors. This area, the green color, maybe 4 or 5 greens here, dark brown, light brown plus reds, and oranges, and yellow color. So I can say I divided by four areas. Whenever I want to choose a kind of color that I want that I'm looking for, I go choose it. I don't go with names, so I know if I want a dark blue, I go in this area, light blue this area. Again, same thing for the green, same thing for the red, and also for yellow. So that's the way that I use my palette, and it's really helpful for me to organize it. So by looking at my value sketch, I try to do a very rough sketch, same thing that I was talking about in my study. So there is a house. I'm putting a kind of small house here. These are trees, and that's the path that I was talking about. And here's the sky. I think showing only this amount of information with the pen is enough. So I'll go for to use the paint. For the sky, I prefer to make the area wet, so I can get a better effect from there. So you know this, if I use paint, I mean paint with lots of water, and I put it in the wet area, the technique will be wet on wet, so you'll get a very loose effect from paint. And if I want to make it darker, I can use more paint and put it in the place that I want to make it darker. So I'm using a light green here. And I try to, I let the color blend with the sky, so it will be a kind of smooth area of the green. And I know that I have light grass here, so I'm adding color in the grass area, and again the tree color blends, and the continuity of colors here is very important, so it gives me there's no hard edges, because I'm not looking for I don't want to make it dark edges unless in the pathway, so because I want to keep it white, so or lighter than the green area, so I said I'm trying to make it make some hard edges, and it will be helpful. As I did in my my sketches, actually here I have dark spaces in this area, so these are the dark greens here, and maybe dark greens in this area, so it shows me it gives me a kind of 3D effects of the trees. So when it goes too far or in the background, there is light green and dark green, and the composition of these area gives me a background plus sky. So now I'm trying to put dark areas in my in here, so it gives me a kind of 3D trees, or the real shape of the trees. So again, I go to the green area in my palette, and if I want to make it dark green, I add red to green, or maybe a little blue, so it gives me a kind of dark warm green. I'm trying to add those dark areas in the around my focal point, so again it emphasizes the point of my painting that I want to emphasize it. So that's one way of make something important, to add dark elements around it. One thing in watercolor that is really important is how much paint and how much color we have to use. So if we use lots of paint without color, so the density of paint is a lot, so it gives us more color plus hard shapes, hard edges, and vice versa. If we use lots of water plus less paint, it gives us a light result of paint on the paper, and it's really free, so you can't control the edges. Both technique works, but we have to know where we want to use it. So that's one of the items in watercolor, that we have to always be careful and use it in the right place. to make the um, house kind of attractive and make it as a focal point, as I said, that's my goal. I use some sharp colors to paint for the house, so that's why that maybe this kind of colors, actually color choice, helps me to emphasize it, and it helps. I mean, it works. So for the shadow of the grass, I want to emphasize here, so maybe I add a blue to the green, and that will be my shadow. I don't want to make it very dark, so I use water to soften the edges. And in this part, I want to add dark greens, because that's a very white space and light space, so I'm thinking to maybe add some shadows here, so at least maybe I can add some dark green. So one thing that is helpful when you want to get pointish dark color, I try to splash the color like this on the areas that I want to have a dark space, and it gives me a kind of texture, nice texture. So I like these effects on the painting. So again, since the surface or the paper is getting dry, I start adding dark colors in the place that I'm in, the locations that I'm looking for. So it will be, when it's getting dry and I add color, I can get this kind of this kind of edges. So that's why that I said it's very important to know where to use the dark, how to use the paint with how much water. So less paint, more water gives you a kind of unshaped forms, and more paint, less water gives, you can define the shape of the painting. So that's important to know. So I mean, I'm trying to add some lines here to define the path here. So these lines help in each painting. It's better to use lines, points. So these are the elements of every composition, and it helps me to define the focal point. So it's almost in the center of the painting, and also I use the repetition of the form of the shape, so it will be something that it helps me to define the subject. I'm adding some dark areas here. And I like the way that the dry brush gives me the That's one other way to make the texture in the painting. So I think I'm done with this painting. So I don't want to work a lot and add more details, because I think the less detail with but very intellectual, actually, with knowledge, um, as long as it gives us the idea of what we are looking and what we are painting for. So I think that's enough. So it's better to not add um, details. I mean, lots of details. Anyway, so I hope you guys enjoyed it, and feel free to ask me any question if there's something that I missed during my demo today. Yeah, I have to finish it because I always want to work more. So for me, it's important to say, okay, stop.